Hey,
Hey, how are you?
good. I finally remembered my Station 19 gear this time.
Way.
Took me a while. You have yours on every time, so I always feel bad that I forget mine
Every time.
every time. Yeah, I need to get me one like that though. This is like I got it on Amazon, so it's like an official ABC. I guess it's like a what do we call it here? I can't think of the word we call it when you like when people sell DVDs from their trunk that aren't real. That's kind of what this is,
Oh,
I
like
guess.
bootleg.
Yeah, like bootleg. Exactly.
This is also bootleg. This is
Is
this is
it?
homemade.
Oh, well, it looks
Yeah.
great. It looks just like the official, yeah.
This is a pre-existing hoodie and a vinyl cutter at work.
Oh, well, it looks you could sell bootleg shirts. That's how good it looks.
I mean, I would never, but thanks.
Right, right. Um, I'm opening up, sorry, I'm looking down. I'm opening up my Instagram because I got some cool fan messages. I want to give some fan shout outs for the
Oh,
podcast.
awesome. Okay.
Yeah, first one on Instagram is from Carla Soares. Her username is Kalhian23. She is from Luxembourg.
Wow.
She said she gave us a 5-star review and she likes that we think the same, but actually also have completely different opinions. And
Yeah.
when she listens to us, she usually has not watched the episode yet, so she usually listens for anything good with Marina.
Ah,
So that was from Carla.
I'm glad she doesn't mind spoilers.
This next one, her name is Sarah. She's from Vancouver, British Columbia
Oh.
in Canada. Um, she sent some things towards you, so
Oh.
I wanted you to be able to hear them. She said, I think Jack has more than 5 lines in this episode. Make sure you tell Melissa. So she was counting that. Um, she wondered if Chief Dearborn from Spokane is Maya's ex.
That's in my notes.
Yeah, so that was something she wanted to talk about. She cannot believe that Karina went out for drinks with homewrecker Pam. She loved Maya's face when Pam mentions the drinks and how she reacted. She's
Yeah.
happy that Travis dropped out. Marina's kiss. Loving that Maya's not a blackmailer, and sorry about Natasha and Sullivan because she knows how much I love Natasha and Sullivan. So those were the notes from Sarah, which I thought was cool.
Excellent. Thank you for getting in touch, folks.
Yeah, so it's exciting. I love getting messages that have to do specifically with our podcast because I love that people are listening and that it's even getting their minds working and even hearing other people's thoughts, just not
Yeah.
ours, our own. So I'm loving it. Keep the messages coming, whether they're on Instagram or our email or what else are we on? Facebook, Twitter. Shout us a message. So we love hearing from you.
Yes, thanks, guys. Thank you. Well, I absolutely loved 614, Get It All Out. How about you?
Yes, I think it was finally what we needed. It was, a lot of people love this. They call it the slow burn with Marina. I'm not a fan of the slow burn at all. Um, but it was a fun way to kind of it made the slow burn a little more fun this episode, I'll say.
Yeah, yeah.
What did you think? Did you like it overall?
The slow burn or the episode?
First the episode overall, and then you can say what you think about the slow burn.
The episode overall, I think, is one of my favorite episodes of Station 19, period. I absolutely loved this episode. I don't think there was one thing about it that I could pick a fault with. I genuinely just thought it was absolutely superb. And the slow burn has been a little bit too slow for me in terms of my level of patience. However,
Hmm.
I think that they've paced it incorrectly for the fans because we're all super, super, super impatient. However, they have paced it correctly for storyline, I think, and for Karina, because we couldn't have her give in and just forgive and forget too soon, too quickly. It wouldn't have been true to character. So although it's been absolutely killing me, I'm glad that they've given Karina the correct amount of space, because she forgave too quickly with the whole Jack thing. It was just literally, Maya turning up at the hospital going, sorry and all that, and her going, oh, go on then, gives a snog. And so that was a little bit too quick. So I think that it's been correct for the story, the pace of the slow burn. And at least we've got some payoff now.
And I do think, honestly, as much as I hate to say it, I think it's realistic. I think when there's emotional pain in a marriage, um, that severe of emotional pain, you don't move on that quickly. If you stay together, you kind of have to move on, and not move on. I want to say this carefully. Um, Not move on quickly, but you have to adapt more to normal behaviors quickly. But because she
Yes.
allowed herself to leave the environment, she has the luxury of, no, I'm going to do this the way I need to do it to heal, which is how it should be done. You should be allowed to heal. And so they're
Yeah.
very much being fragile and careful with it, which I appreciate.
Yes.
But part of me wants to see Marina together. So
Right?
it's
Yeah.
I'm on
Yeah.
both
I think
sides
we're
for
on
sure.
exactly the same page with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But this episode was absolutely phenomenal, I think. And we shouldn't really be surprised, because it was written obviously by the incomparable Peter Page. He's just, I mean, incredible. And obviously, we
Yes.
know his pedigree with
Yes.
Station 19, consultant producer, now executive producer, having directed plenty. We know that he, wrote The Fosters. And so we shouldn't really be surprised that we got such an incredible script from him. And Stacey K. Black directed this one, veteran director on the show, going all the way back to series 2. And she's given us some like amazing moments, I think, Stacey K. Black. So like she did the Blackout episode, and it's season 2. I'm not as familiar with season 1 and 2. It's not one that I've like rewatched a bunch of times, but one of the things I remember really vividly from Stacey K. Black's episode, the Blackout episode, is the guy lying under the stars to die. You remember that? He
Yep.
was on
Yep.
life support, and then the calendar
Yep.
shoot. We remember the calendar shoot quite well now.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I want one of those calendars.
Oh, I'd I'd buy it for sure. They should have released those.
Oh, heck yeah, I'd buy it. They should sell them now, or give it to a charity or something. I'd buy one. I'd buy a couple. I'm not even gonna
Yeah,
lie.
there you go, ABC. Bring out a calendar.
Yeah, I know so many people on Twitter were like, I would buy 10. If there's a charity they want to reach out to, they could make some money. We would buy
Oh
them all
yeah, there you go, ABC. We keep coming up with these great
for sure.
ideas for you, ABC. You should get us on staff.
I know we need to be like consultants. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And then so Stacey K. Black also had the Travick Heavy episode from season 4, which
Okay.
was great. She opened and closed season 5, and she did Andy's assault episode, episode 14, and she
Mm,
opened season 6.
yeah.
And we know that she's closing season 6 because she just put on her Instagram, like on Friday, I think they wrapped at like 11:15 p.m. or something silly.
Yeah.
So we should not be surprised, should we, with Peter Page's writing, SKB's directing, and the great moments that she's given us. Like, this was always going to be a banger, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it had all of the potential from the beginning, which them two on it. There was nothing less to expect. So
No.
they both delivered beautifully.
And I don't know how you felt about this episode, but I felt that every single cast member had a moment. Like, everyone had something memorable to say or do. I felt like everything has been moved on. I mean, maybe not Jack, but I'm not sure what's going on with Jack at the minute. But I feel like every single
Yeah.
character has moved on. I feel like every single relationship has developed and moved on, and in a single episode. But at the same time, nothing felt rushed. I don't feel like I've been shortchanged in any of the developments that have happened. I just felt like the pacing was absolutely perfect.
Yes, and I've been a huge Andy fan since day one. I absolutely love Jana Lee Ortiz. You know that.
Yes,
She's kind
yeah.
of my. It was funny. I used to, I used to, um, I used to tell my best friend that she was my TV wife if I was ever decided to that I felt like I liked women, that Jana Lee Ortiz would be my TV wife. Um, I just love her, and I feel like we got to see some of her. No, she's very good, just like Stefania Stephanato. She's very good at doing comedy and trauma, as we saw in her trauma episode. And we got to see a little bit more of her aggressive emotion in this
Yeah.
episode, which I liked. I liked seeing her stretch that way. So I loved this. I loved Andy in this episode for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't know about you, but I felt like the whole episode was just like 10 minutes long. I felt like the whole episode went faster
Yeah.
than any of the individual cave scenes from 612. And when it was finished, I was so disappointed. And
Yeah.
I looked to Julia and I was like, is it done? Why is it done? How's it done? Like it was over so fast. And I just think it was just the brilliant writing, really, like the great economy of language and, you know, just Peter Page's pedigree, like just showing in spades. The whole episode got everything to where it needs to be in 42 minutes and it felt like 10. I genuinely feel like this is one of my favorite ever episodes of Station 19.
Yeah, usually I'm not gonna lie. Usually when I rewatch it, I fast forward through the fillers, and I didn't even have to do that this time because it was just um, even the filler in the barn with the boys was, there was quality conversation between Vic and Jack. So I didn't have to fast forward this episode because I
No.
wanted to see every second of it.
Yeah, every frame. Yeah,
Yeah,
same.
it was great. Good job, Peter Page. Good job.
Way! And Stacey K. Black, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And they remembered who Jack is.
He did. He gave him some lines.
They did give him some lines. They did give him some lines. As such, I'm not going to do Jack's dialogue again this week. So, but shall we talk about Jack? Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Good stuff. So basically, Jack's whole kind of arc this week is concussion. So essentially, Jack slips on some cream cheese when a call comes in. Maya drops a chunk of bread on the floor. He hits his head really hard, which results in him leaving a burner on. Later on, he stumbles in the beanery and slops chicken broth on himself. He falls on the stairs. He's repeating himself when he's trying to get medical information from the victims in the barn. He finally admits that he doesn't feel very well, collapses against the engine, and Vic has to call Ruiz to come and help. Then he collapses big time in the beanery, at which point he admits that it was him who left the burner on when he slipped and hits his head. And he ends up being taken to the hospital by Ruiz to get checked out. And as we know, he'll be fine. They're just going to keep him in for observation and give him some fluids. I think that's pretty much Jack's whole shtick in this episode. So they gave him some lines, but he seems like a vehicle or an assist for the other characters in this episode for me. I don't know about for you.
Yeah, he kind of allowed the storyline to move on, and then gave it something to come back to, and then move on, and then gave it, yeah, for sure. But it was entertaining in its own way, and constantly wondering, is he okay? Is he going to get checked out? It gave a level of concern in the episode for him. So it was done very well, for sure. And he got plenty of lines for somebody who banged their head and got a concussion.
Yeah, exactly. So. And he gave Andy and Vic both some food for thought, re Sullivan and the Chief, because he had two separate conversations with them about Sullivan and the Chief. He also, I thought, highlighted some of Theo's failings. I mean, because he went out on the call after he banged his head. And so it doesn't seem that Theo appeared to notice that Jack was sick. I mean, to be fair, neither did anyone else. Then he was micromanaging it when it was finally revealed that Jack's not in a great place. He was very overprotective, micromanaging, having a bit of a panic. So he sort of helped out with showing us that Theo's not perhaps coping very well as well. But I did think, actually, I did pick out that I think that Jack had the most pivotal line in the whole show. So not much dialogue again, but when the boys were throwing up in the barn, he said, if you want to get better, you've got to come clean. And I thought that basically the whole episode can hang on that line. So not much to say, but poignant when saying things, I thought. For me, that was Jack in a nutshell. How about you?
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't really put that line on the whole episode, but now that you say it, I mean, he's they do that very well of having them speak to themselves, kind of when Maya told that Clara that you don't have to act. I don't remember what it was. You don't have to act like you're strong for people, like nothing's wrong for people to think you're strong or something like that. And they have a good way of having them say a one-liner to be like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
you think so? Like
yeah.
you should think about that." Um, for sure. Yeah.
So, do we need to say more about Jack, or have we covered Jack off, do we think?
No, I think for having a concussion and being unconscious, we covered him pretty well.
Shall we talk about the future Mayor Montgomery? Or is he?
Yeah, let's talk about my guy. I love him. I've always loved him.
He's just an all round good egg, is Travis.
Jay Hayden does an amazing job
He
portraying
is
Travis.
so funny. And my favourite Jay Hayden slash Travis thing, this is really silly, but is him eating snacks out of a jar.
Oh yeah,
There's a very specific way in which he eats snacks from a jar, and it just kills me. You know, like certain actors have like these idiosyncrasies that make a
yeah.
character who they are. I think for me, he's managed to like get the essence of Travis into that action of like eating snacks out of a jar. I don't
Which he does
know.
quite a bit, so we get to see that.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's funny.
yeah.
Yeah,
So when we left Travis, he was shirtless on his couch with Eli. And when we meet him again, he is receiving a text from Eli. Andy, however, has not received a text from Eli. But Travis is a bit giddy, it appears, about the whole Eli situation, which he reveals in a little bit more detail when he's talking to Sullivan. He says, sometimes you just need an Eli to believe in you.
yeah,
So it seems that they had an enjoyable exchange. And then when Eli's going to be coming to the station, again, he gets a little bit giddy, goes running out to reception, has a very awkward, fidgety conversation with Vic where he tells Vic that he slept with Eli. Then he realizes that it's perhaps going to seem a bit desperate if he's waiting for him in reception and runs upstairs. And then Eli does turn up with Councilmember Osman, who wants to concede to Travis in the race so that they don't split the progressive vote, which would then give Dixon the path to victory. Um, but just that little bit when Eli walks in and Andy and Travis are the two in the beanery, and there's that kind of "Hey, hi," oh, from Travis and Andy, and then the look on Eli's face of "Ah, crap."
yep.
So this is why, Eli, we're very careful about who we date and where and when. But there we are. So Councilman then overwhelms Travis with all his numbers and his statistics and all the policy stuff that Eli said makes him boring. And Travis goes and excuses himself to get a pep talk from Vic, and that was Vection. And she points out to him that he only got into the race to stop Dixon, which he has ostensibly done at this point, and to not let other people's agendas become his and to listen to his own voice. Eli comes out to make his voice heard, tells Travis to get back in the room and close the deal, but then Travis is saved by Jack's epic collapse on the beanery floor, at which point he gets another pep talk from Vic to say that he didn't get into politics for ego or power. So he then concedes the race to the better candidate because he says they've both dedicated themselves to public service, but basically they should just stay in their lanes. So one's a career politician, the other's a career firefighter. If they both stick to that, they're golden. And his only conditions are that he wants Crisis 1 to be protected, he wants FD's budget to be increased by at least 15%, and he wants the councilman to appoint an LGBTQIA plus liaison and give Eli a job. And then he's going to not only concede, but he'll endorse him and campaign for him, which leaves Eli understandably livid. I think understandably livid. And Travis's only concern is whether Eli will want to date him after that, which is how poor Andy finds out that they slept together. And then it's left to Vic, who, let's face it, I don't think Vic minds breaking news like this. But it's then left to Vic to tell Travis that Andy and Eli were dating, or at least that Andy wanted them to be, but that Travis has now taken care of that. And then, to Travis's credit, he apologizes to Andy, who tells him that she'd actually turned Eli down, so no one had done anything wrong.
Yes, so much to say for this scene.
Go on, you kick us off.
We agree on some and disagree on some, which is what makes this interesting.
Oh, okay.
I absolutely loved Vic's advice to Travis. I'm going to start with that. I think Vic is always so well spoken. She's so well grounded. I love that about her because she's also so goofy and so funny. She's like the perfect wing woman best friend you'd want to have. I love her. I
Yeah.
loved how she backed Travis and really just kind of centered him and brought him to where he needed to be. Um, I feel that Travis really showed how amazing he is, that he was able to see, even though I have all of these good things that would make me a good politician, I'm lacking in the things that you really need. You need to understand the numbers. You need to have policies. You need to have, because those need to be followed to have a democracy, to have a stand. The government we have, you have to
Yeah.
have those things into place. And going in blindly would be
It would be disastrous.
horrific. I mean, if you didn't,
Yeah.
yeah, if at least he should have had somebody at least lined up to be helping him with those things by now, right? If he was gonna, because you don't have to have that, but you have to have somebody that you trust that can do that if you don't have it. And we didn't
Yes.
see that, right?
No.
So I think for him to kind of have that click was good. A lot of us didn't want Travis to be mayor, which I didn't, because I didn't want him to leave firefighting. So it was a good way to kind of segue that in. Um,
Yep.
I feel that Eli, to me, started to show his true colors. I did not like Eli in this scene. I think he overreacted. I understand that he should feel let down because he has worked so hard with Travis,
Yeah.
but for him to be like, now I have to go beg the new mayor of Seattle for a job. Travis secured that in his negotiations with you. He didn't with him. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to say
Yeah.
you have to give Eli a job, but he did, and he gave him his word that he would. And so I agree he should be upset, but I think he kind of showed that he just cared about his own agenda maybe a little bit and was using Travis to get that.
See, my take on that is that if he'd wanted to be Robles Osmond's campaign manager, he would have asked him, but he didn't. And he
Mm-hmm.
and he said before, didn't he, about Travis, that Travis had the things that he liked and admired him because he wasn't a career politician, I think. And I think that he, really saw things in Travis that he did admire. He loved his values, I think, and his honesty, and I think that really appealed to him, and he has worked bloody hard morning, noon, and night. And I
Yes.
think that without even any discussion, and obviously the last time we saw them as well, because Eli knows that Travis has been having some wobbles, but just before he yoinked Eli's shirt off his back, he did say, perhaps we should give the people what they want. And so, as far as Eli's concerned, he's done a great
Yeah.
job. He's got Travis into the lead. He's got Travis in a winning position. Not only that, they've got his nearest competition to concede. And it's at that point
Right.
that Travis doesn't even say to him, says to the other guy, whilst Eli's in the room, yeah, I don't want this. I'm giving it up. You can have it. And so I can see from Eli's point of view, you think, what's all this been for? And I think that Eli's hopes and dreams have been dashed. So I can understand him being hurt and upset about that and having a bit of a strop and stomping out. I think I'd have a strop and a stomp. So I'm gonna let Eli have this one, I think, because I do feel a little bit sorry for him, because I feel like Travis did pull the rug out from under his little English brogue covered feet.
Maybe it's because I'm upset with him for what he did to Andy.
Maybe, but
um,
Andy said she told him that she didn't want a date. So he was free and clear to go and jump Travis, to be
but then she
fair.
texts him again, though. She texts him again, and
Yeah, but
if
he was already doing the naughty with Travis when the text came through, so he didn't see that.
so, but in my opinion, if he really cared for her, he wouldn't have just been like, "All right, I'm just gonna go sleep with somebody else now."
Well, here's
That's just
here's
my
a
opinion.
here's a boy. I don't know if that makes any difference. I don't know. I
I don't
genuinely
think I
don't
would.
know.
I don't think I'd be so forgiving. I'm not over here sleeping with somebody else when I'm trying to date you. Just saying.
Well, me neither, but I don't know. Different strokes for different folks.
She said, "Well, me
Look,
neither."
no, me neither, no. But look, someone has to back Eli, and I think that I'm the only person that's going to do it.
Even Andy aside, I've never been a big fan of Eli, so I think it's hard for me to have not to have less sympathy for him because I've not, from the beginning you've had to push, the positives for Eli. So I think it's easy for me to lack empathy towards him.
Yeah, yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
Well, you and I have I've talked to you about this privately, and also I think I've mentioned it on your live. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast before, but he just honestly reminds me of the boys that I went to college with. Just
yeah.
that like slightly posh. What did Vic call him? Prince Harry's illegitimate cousin or something. Like,
That's funny.
look, he's got faults aplenty, but he does remind me of the boys that I went to college with. So I've just got a little bit of a soft spot for him, even though he should be intolerable. But there we go. Did we miss
Yeah.
anything, or have we covered off Travis?
No, I think that scene was we hit that scene good.
Good stuff. So next in my notes, I've got Sullivan and the Chief.
Yeah, we start out with Chief Ross coming in. Loved seeing her hair down, by the way. I love it back because she looks so professional, but I love seeing it down as well. She's just gorgeous either way. But
Softened her a bit.
yeah, it did, which was appropriate for her approaching Sullivan um, for what she was approaching him for.
Yeah.
Um, she comes in and kind of says it was funny. She didn't even stop and check on Ruiz to see how he's doing in his new captain role, which I thought was funny. I thought she might kind of make a bypass there first to make it almost appear like that's why she was there. But she didn't. She just walked right by.
Oh, she did go in, didn't she? I thought she went into his office just briefly. Yeah, because I think that she was disarmed. I think
I didn't think she went in, did she?
the way that I read it was because Vic was like surprised that she was
I
there.
didn't
And I
remember
think
that.
that I read it that she was a little bit like, oh crap, I've got to come up with something now. I went, oh, I'm just looking for Ruiz. And Vic went, oh, he's right. He's in his office right there.
Was it that quick? But wasn't it an exchange like outside the door though? Did she not go in? It's like talk to him?
I think she went in. I think she went in.
I remember it was like a quick exchange outside the door, but maybe it was because I was more like, oh God, what's she gonna say to Sully?
We'll check.
But I don't
We'll
remember
check.
her like going in and like closing the door and talking to him.
No, I don't think we saw it, but I think she did go in, and then we didn't really hear anything. I don't think so. I think that she just basically like covered did the bare minimum to
Okay.
cover her tracks. I think is how I remember it, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go back on that. Gosh, that's gonna drive me nuts now. Anyway. So she gets to Sullivan and says, I got a call from
Dearborn.
Chief Spokane or Chief Dearborn out of Spokane that one of my firefighters applied for a battalion chief job. Are you leaving 19? And that kind of he doesn't say anything, and that kind of shifts that scene. And then they end up getting Sullivan gets on the call to go aid with the what's the name of that angle grinder. So I remember the name of the tool, but the angle grinder, and she offers to go, so none of the other firefighters miss the dinner, and that gives us. I loved the look she gave Sullivan, like, yeah, this isn't over. We're gonna keep talking about this, which is why she volunteered to be in the car. I absolutely loved the car conversation. I loved how transparent Ross became.
Yeah.
I loved how soft she became. I loved that she finally voiced, I'm in love with you. I want to marry you. I want to shout, declare our love for the world. I loved that. And because Sullivan's kind of felt one sided in that, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and I loved that she was like, you couldn't wait a year for a promotion like that. You were just telling me you'd wait 30 years for a war wife. And I just loved everything about her dialogue. Whoever wrote her
Yes.
dialogue, I loved it. And I think it was really what Sullivan needed to hear. Um, because she hasn't really let that guard down in front of him yet. And totally loved it. And then I love seeing Ross in action. We didn't get to see her too much, But when she was on the screen, I was watching her because I love
Yeah.
seeing her in action. That she got to help a little bit deliver the baby. And I just loved Ross and Sullivan's. Even though it was a rough patch, I loved all of their interaction in the episode.
Same, same. I felt so bad for her because I think that in patches, he was actually cruel. Like
Yes.
some of the
Yep.
things that he said, like when they were in the equipment room, which is when they actually got to finish the talk, and she said to him, "Did you not think that I would find out?" And the way that he said to her, "Well,
Yeah.
you didn't tell me that you were promoting Ruiz, so I assumed we weren't doing work talk anymore." Mate, moving across the
Yeah.
state is not work talk. And he knows that that's not, and she
Right.
said, "Are you
Yeah.
doing this to punish me?" And he said, "No, I was just dealing with being passed over. And this was supposed to protect both of our careers, not just yours." And it's like, well, I think actually you
Yeah.
were doing it to punish her. If you weren't doing it to punish her, you would have had a conversation with her. The fact that you've done it this way behind her back is clearly a punishment. It was just harsh. And he doesn't kind of say it back when she says, "I love you. I'm trying to do anything but hurt you." He doesn't say it back. And
Right.
she was she just bared her soul to him. "I want to marry you. I want to declare our love to the world." Yeah, Peter Page was masterful, eh?
He was. I
It was
loved that
just
dialogue.
absolutely brilliant. But I thought that Sullivan was, yeah, cruel, actually. I think what he's done is completely uncalled for, really immature. And I think that when she said,
Yeah.
"Are you punishing me?" that was a rhetorical question. He is punishing her, and it's not right, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not fair at all. He's lacking understanding of just how serious it is, her being chief, and even him saying you're only caring about your career right now. Well, with all due respect, she's chief of the of the fire department. I mean, you waiting a little bit to go from lieutenant to captain, I'm sorry, but in my opinion,
Yeah.
that can wait a little bit. She just became chief not that long ago, and she needs a little bit more time to solidify her reputation as chief. You can wait a little bit,
Yep.
dude. I mean, so yes, he was being very harsh towards her.
Yeah. And also, he was the author of his own downfall. He could have been the chief,
Right.
right? But he was the one that made the
Yep.
slip up that he did. And addiction's a disease. I'm
Yep.
not judging him for that at all. At all. But he
Right.
could have gone and asked for
Right.
help, and he chose not to. He chose to steal drugs from the PRT. He ruined PRT for Warren. He could have got Warren discharged from the service. Poor Emmett scared the bejesus out of Emmett on his first day on the job. He's the author of his own misfortune. He's only got himself to blame for the fact that he is now, in fact, he was Grunt. She's promoted him to lieutenant. So the only reason that he's in the position he's in is because of her. And he should respect that not only is she the chief, she's the first female chief, she's a woman of color. So, in my
Yeah.
opinion,
Yeah.
he should be proud, and he should realize that like she says, things are up and down in relationships. Things aren't always equal and fair. There's a little bit of turn taking involved. And right now, he should be prepared to sit back and say, "You know what, this is your turn, this is your time, and I will sit back and I will wait, and it will be worth it in the end." So I'm with you. Julia disagreed with me because I said, "Well, what about when he said, like the chief pointed out, he said that he'd wait 30
Yeah.
years for her, and now
Yeah.
he's saying what?" And Julia said, "Yeah, but that was then, and this is now, and
Yeah.
he's been passed over." And so, but she was playing devil's advocate
So
a
it
bit,
was
I think.
it was conditional. You'd only wait as long as you got what you wanted. Like
Yeah, exactly.
you'll only wait as if I do what you
Yeah,
want. No. So no, I wanna just piggyback a couple
go.
things.
Go.
I agree with you 100%. For anybody who's listening, not judging Sullivan at all. Addiction is a disease, and it's also a disease that our society does not
Nope.
help with enough. Um, rehabs are not readily available enough. Insurance doesn't help enough. We tend to write it off and not help people who struggle with that, and that's wrong. And I'm glad that the show
Yep.
handled it the way that they did. That they didn't just him, that they helped him, they built him back up. I think that that was done beautifully. But I do agree that Sullivan's demotions were done at his own cause. Um, and it's not like he was unfairly demoted, like some would argue about
Mm-hmm.
Maya for a call, right? It was something severe
Yes.
that had to be done. And she did already promote him somewhat, and it should not be a quick promotion. Addiction is an ongoing disease that needs ongoing treatment. And I think in real life, it would be a slower, bring back up
Yeah.
of promotion, just to make sure that the person's getting help, that they're doing well. A side story, when I was a brand new nurse, I had a nurse that I worked with that was struggling with addiction, and they were stealing medications from the med cart. And they went and got help, but we brought them back. And we slowly, like at first they couldn't access the med card alone
Yeah.
and we had to do it with them. But there was
Yes.
a
Yeah.
process, is what I'm saying. And we built them back up, and so to me, there was one point, I think, Ross said, "Do you think you're going to get special treatment because dating me?" No, you're not. This needs to be done the way that it should be
Yeah.
done,
Yeah.
right? And he said no, but now it's like, okay, so you were expecting to get that promotion because you're with me, or what?
Yes. Yeah.
So it, I disagree with Julia, though. I think that that was then, this is now. No, 30 years
Yeah.
is 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a long time.
But I think
So
Julia's point harked back to when he was talking to Travis when they were cleaning the ladder together.
uh-huh.
He said to Travis, didn't he? Sometimes even if you're the best qualified person for the job and you're ready for it and you've done everything right and you're the right person for the job,
Right.
you still don't get it.
Right.
Yeah, when you're prepared and qualified, you still don't get the job you deserve. And Julia kind of said, well, he would be the better person for the job than Ruiz. And if it's only temporary,
Right.
like, would it have hurt her just to give him the job temporarily until Beckett came back? So I take her point. I just disagree with it. I'm with you.
That's a good point. That could she just have given it to him temporarily, without that
Yeah.
affecting their relationship?
Yeah. Because if it was just an interim captainship,
Yes.
like,
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm sorry,
yeah.
I had to check. Um, you were right. She does walk in, but that's all we see. She walks in his
Yes, yeah.
office, and then we don't see anything. And then it goes to
No.
Pam and Maya. So maybe that's why it like went in my mind that she didn't even go in there. So you were right. Now
Because you were just waiting for Pam and Maya.
yeah. Oh, and waiting to see. Yeah, so she goes in, but we don't hear what the conversation is. Now I have to turn it off, otherwise I'll
Yeah.
keep watching.
Well, I'm glad we got that one cleaned
But
up.
you were right.
Cool. Well, then I think we were spoiled with incidents this week because we technically got 3, but we only saw 2.
Right.
But it sort of all kicked off with Andy throwing Theo a promotion party.
Uh-huh.
And she says that he deserves it. Everyone but Ruiz is in the beanery preparing the meal. They're all dancing. I loved that.
That was fun, yeah.
When I see these things, I always wonder what they're dancing to because it's never the track that we hear in the end. It's always something like random.
Yeah.
But they were all boogieing on down. And I really liked that we saw Maya and Sullivan exchange a smile again. So the thaw appears to be continuing.
But then you see Maya kind of like, oh, God.
Yeah, because then she suddenly realizes, doesn't she? Oh, crap.
I think she pictures the pictures.
Yeah, exactly. Like everything was...
For sure.
Yeah, nobody needs to see that, right? Jeez. I mean, I love them, but God. Awkward. Poor Vic.
I like those scenes. I like the Maya. I like the Ross. I love the Ross Sullivan hotel scene. That's one of my favorite scenes.
Knocking over the chessboard with the "I'm about to take my queen." That was just, it sent me over the top. It was a little bit too much for me.
Okay, now that was lame. That line
Right?
made me cringe. It was so lame. But I love the romantics of it. Like, I love the bathtub and I love the sensuality. I just love that scene. And I've heard a lot of Marina fans say, why don't we get that with Marina? And I agree. I think we need to see that in all relationships because I would love to see that with Marina. Um, just that sensuality and that intimacy and that I think it doesn't just need to be wasted on one relationship or one couple.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Like we've never gotten a whole episode with constant flashbacks. Like we've never because that sorry
No,
to interrupt you, but that hotel scene it was spread out from over the whole
yeah.
episode, right? I don't feel like we've ever gotten that with because even when they went on their vacation, it was not that intimate over the whole episode like the hotel was, in my
Well, I
opinion.
mean, I guess Sorpresa Take One was kind of, it was intimated that they were basically in bed for 2 days.
That's true.
I think the whole kind of the insemination scene was fairly graphic.
Yeah, but she was hormonal like the whole episode
Look,
though. So like
I
I
have
don't know.
got some stuff to say about that episode when we get to the recap of that. And what I've just said is probably the only positive thing that I will have to say when we get to that episode, apart from the individual performances. But
Okay.
I kind of don't mind because I think that I don't need the sexual intimacy. I prefer
No,
emotional
I agree.
intimacy.
I
So,
agree.
so whilst Sullivan and Ross are good-looking people, it's fine, and I don't mind. I don't mind it, but I don't need it.
No, and maybe it came out wrong. I won't stay on this because I know we don't have a lot of time, but it wasn't just sexual intimacy in the hotel. Like we saw them
Yeah,
cuddling in
yeah,
bed, kind of laughing and tickling and flirting. I loved the intellectual intimacy when they
yeah,
were playing chess and kind of having a difficult conversation. And them her trying to get a knock knock joke out of him before the bath. It
yeah,
was the fun, loving intimacy that we saw. They didn't actually have sexual intimacy except when he first got there and she dropped the flowers and they went to bed. The rest of it was other
yeah,
things,
yeah.
and that's what I appreciated about it. So I would just love to see Marina kind of away spending a whole day together, very similar to when they went on vacation. Because we saw it then too. We saw Karina being there for Maya when she was having a panic attack. We saw them having fun by the pool. We saw them.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair
I would
comment.
just like to see that
Yeah.
again. Anyway, but what were you about to hit on? Sorry.
We were talking about the rescues, like the incidents
Okay,
that took
got
place.
it.
What got us onto that was Maya. You said that Maya was like flashing when she was looking at Sullivan. She was flashing back to the
Oh, yeah.
photographs. Yeah. So then they end up going out on the call. The call comes in while they're preparing all the food for Ruiz, and then Vic is left at the station because she's on desk duty. So she has a little tap dance through reception and then falls asleep, and is woken by the sprinklers coming on and the sound of the fire alarm. And she kind of rushes over to the kitchen, to the beanery, and realizes that Jack's left the burner on and a pot's caught fire. And she has to use, I mean, the food was already ruined by the sprinklers, to be fair, but then she has to
Right.
use a fire extinguisher to put the fire out. And then when they come back from the call, Theo goes absolutely nuts. And Andy's gone from Theo deserves all of the praise and Theo deserves the party to arguing with Theo because he's accusing her of undermining him, saying that it's dangerous out on the calls, and then goes nuts when he realizes that the burner's been left on. And then he accuses Andy again and saying that she's done it on purpose to make him look incompetent. He starts throwing his weight around, ordering them to clean up, making sure they address him as captain. It's just
Yep.
a really awkward display in the beanery. It's just not nice. Vic tries to talk him down in the office. He's dismissive of her as usual, and they end on bad terms with her addressing him as captain in a very pointed way. So that's the incident that we don't see. The one that we do see is pretty gross. Four teenage boys come in asking for paramedics. That none of them look great. One of them's looking particularly sweaty, and then he promptly throws up on the floor directly in front of Vic. They're escorted to the barn,
Mm-hmm.
where more of them start being sick, but they're all very hesitant to tell Vic and Jack why they're puking up until eventually one of them tells the ringleader to stop covering his own arse. They break and admit that they were doing the ghost chip challenge. That sounds like a TikTok thing to me.
Yeah.
It's all fine. They're fine. Ruiz ends up seeing them off, telling them to go eat something. And again, it was just like a fun little interlude. If for teenage boys throwing up all over the floor can be a fun interlude, but it was a nice vehicle to show that basically keeping secrets is toxic.
Yep.
And it got us to the point where Jack can say, if you want to get better, then you have to own up. So that's that one. And then the third and final incident was the garbage fire. So Andy's in the barn alone when a guy in overalls comes running in saying that his garbage truck's on fire, and Andy just says, "Of course it is," because
Yeah, like why wouldn't it be right now at this exact moment?
that was the only thing that could top her day.
Yeah.
So Ruiz was still at the hospital with Jack. So Andy takes point. Vic says that it smells worse than teenage boy vomit. Travis asks if that's what evil smells like, and asks if he's being punished for inadvertently hurting Andy and crushing Eli's dreams. And Vic, again, wise words from Vic, says that sometimes doing the right thing feels very much like doing the wrong thing. And again, I think that this was kind of important because I wonder if this was kind of an allegory for the whole episode. But Andy says that the garbage is packed in too tight for them to put the fire out. So they're going to have to like dump it. So they spill the flaming, stinky garbage all over the ground so that they can put the fire out. And then when Theo comes back from the hospital, he tells Andy that basically his suspicions that she's resentful of him and that she's trying to sabotage him because she thinks 19's her house and she should be captain. And then Andy completely floors Theo and tells him that she was offered the job and she turned it down. And that the meal that he accused her of deliberately destroying was actually her gift to him. And Theo is absolutely crestfallen, realizing how wrong he is about the whole situation. And it's at that point that he confides in Travis, saying that he thinks he's screwing it up. And Travis, this is why you love Travis, right? Because Travis is just his usual positive self. And he says, no, you're figuring it out. That's different. And he tells Theo that he's proud to call him his captain. And that if Theo concentrates on just fighting fires, the rest will fall into place.
Yep, I agree. I appreciated that from Travis. And I'm glad that Andy,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that will help Theo a little bit. I'm glad that Andy said that to him. And I'm hoping that'll kind of put him in check a little bit.
Yeah. Recording of this episode had to stop prematurely, but join us for part 2 of our bumper breakdown of episode 614.